People would have voted for an orangutan had the orangutan promised change. There's a huge hypocrisy. And I think that my fundamental criticism would be for all the young people who are so shocked about what's happened and Trump's in power and they're all horrified. My question to them is, where were you when the prior administration, or the current one, should I say, the Obama administration, was trampling on human freedoms, was spying on everyone, was droning people all over the bloody world, was engaged in wars all over the place? Where were you? Yeah,
Okay.
we've got automation now, and automation is going to mean the loss of a lot of jobs. People talk about how technology is going to replace and find new jobs. It will. But for every new job it finds, it's got rid of 30 or 40. You think about Google and Facebook and, you know, these pan-global organizations that have got tentacles all over the world and do more advertising and more kind of social networking and everything than you could have possibly imagined 20 or 30 years ago, right? Now you have two geeks sitting there managing some sort of computer interface, and they can basically replace what 500,000 people did not very long ago. So technology is actually replacing lots and lots and lots of people with few people, even though it's doing new things. So the notion that technology is going to create more jobs or equal number of jobs than it's replacing, I think is fanciful. It's not going to happen, right? And you're going into this world where real hard work is being valued less and less and less. And it's because of our financial system. Our financial system is skewed in such a way that speculation and gambling is smarter than working hard and doing useful things. What you get paid for is doing high frequency trading on a computer or lobbying a politician to actually skew the laws in your direction so that you can shuffle a bit more money than the guy next to you, so that you can rent seek and you can curry favour. So this has been going on for a long time now. And what's happening is we're heading towards a situation where an entire generation is going to think that the way to get ahead is possibly to buy a block of land and then go lie by the beach and wait until that block of land appreciates enough that someone else will come and buy that block of land and go and lie by the beach. The people who actually do stuff are being constantly devalued. Their wages are going down. But the deal makers and the speculators get very handsomely rewarded. And the reason why they get handsomely rewarded is because we have a handful of people who are not elected, who are members of a politburo called the central bankers, who were put there in the first place because we have a fiat money system. A fiat money system is where the money is intrinsically worthless. It's pieces of paper. The worth of that money is only in its ability to be a claim on resources, its ability to buy stuff. That's what it's worth. But if you have a system where actually it's very easy to create money, you need to be very careful, because if too much money is just created, it becomes like toilet paper. It's not worth anything. So that's why you need central banks, because central banks are supposed to control this process and not issue too much of the stuff so it stays valuable. The means by which they control this process is called interest rates. But that's all they're supposed to do. They're supposed to just maintain stability in the currency. What's happened because of our political system, and the Obama administration over the last 8 years has been very complicit in this, is the central bankers who are not elected, there are hardly any of them, they don't go to any elections, they don't have to deal with all the protests, they have taken on a whole lot of new mandates all of a sudden. In short, what they're doing is they're making sure that we can make endless promises today, endless promises, with no consequence regarding how those promises are going to be paid for. What's happening now is that corruption of the system has meant that because there's so much debt, the price of money has been brought down so low to keep the whole thing going that you need to realize that the carry cost of any gamble has fallen to next to nothing. In other words, if you are a big time speculator and you want to borrow money to gamble with it, the cost of waiting for your gamble to come good is very, very low. So you can gamble infinitely and wait forever for the result. There's no opportunity cost in waiting for your bet to come in because the interest rate is so low. But if you've got a real business, or if you're a real person out there who's working really hard and you want to borrow money and you want to run a cafe, or you want to actually do something constructive and not gamble, you don't get the same interest rate. Your interest rate is high, which means your opportunity cost is high, which means if your business doesn't start making money pronto, you're going to go out of business. So you've got all these people who do real things who have to pay a high carry cost, and all these other people in Wall Street who gamble and speculate with a very low carry cost. Who do you think is going to win? The gamblers and the speculators are going to win. Now we have had, since the GFC, we had an administration come into power with the biggest crisis since the Great Depression, which they basically wasted. They could have transformed the financial system to make it so that gambling no longer paid, hard work did. And it didn't have to happen overnight. It could have taken 8 years to bring in change, to make it so that banks and speculators had skin in the game, to make it so that they couldn't gamble with other people's money. They didn't. Instead, they chose to preserve the status quo. That was their conscious decision. Preserve the status quo. It's better to do that than to risk changing anything. That is the same message that the Clinton campaign ran on. Preserve the status quo because it's the safe option and it's better than trying to change anything. Trump came along and said, fuck the status quo, and everyone voted for him. Because the status quo can't work. And some point, someone has to do something about it. And I say to all the youngsters who are out there protesting, where were you when all the spying and all the droning and all the warring and all the killing was? Was it okay because it was the good guys who were doing it? And now all of a sudden, the bad guys are in power and they've inherited all the powers that the good guys gave themselves, and now there's a problem, is there? It doesn't work like that. If you are not vigilant all the time, and you don't make sure that you have principles all the time, then sooner or later, the other guys are going to get their turn. And we are now at a point where the other guys have got their turn. So stop whinging.